Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button to know more about my adoption journey and to follow me along on it. Today's video, people have been asking quite a few times about what questions happen in the home study, what the paperwork questions are like, stuff like that. So I'm going to do a video on it. I wasn't planning on doing a video on it, and you are not going to get my answers in this video because I don't have copies with my answers. I should have photocopied my work, but whatever. So I did a video previously when I did private adoption, and a lot of the stuff was similar to then, and I did tell you my answers then. Things have changed, and if you know my journey, you'll know where the changes are, but I will post those up in the cards at some point in this video. So one will probably pop up here, and the other one will pop up later. So every agency is totally different, but if you are in Canada and they are following the SAFE home study, S-A-F-E, home study model, pretty much the same stuff. So I have the paperwork on my tablet, so if you're wondering why I'm looking down, basically you have your personal information. I'm going through the paperwork, so just like your contact information, you need references. How many depends on your agency and if you are married or not. I had 3, and sometimes they want a relative, so mine wanted 1 relative and 2 other people. And then into the questions. So describe your personality, your temperament, feelings towards others, etc. What are your best, strongest qualities? If you could change anything about yourself, what would it be? And that identical question was on my previous one. Some of these I don't remember, but that was definitely one of them, and my answer never changed really. Outline your education, including unfinished programs as well as those not related to your career. List the kind of jobs you have done and describe your current job. What are your career goals? I remember that one being on there. What activities do you enjoy separately from your spouse? Not applicable to me. What parts of your life give you the biggest satisfaction? What parts of your life are the most stressful and how do you handle that stress? That's a lot of the adoption stuff is how do you handle stress? How do you handle anger? How do you handle feeling sad? Stuff like that. What crises have you experienced in your life? That was definitely on my previous one. My previous one at the time, though, was before I had life. Before I had life experience. So at that time, it was like not getting into my university the first time. For my Bachelor of Education, I had my undergrad, but anyway, that was like, oh, my biggest crisis at the time was I didn't get into the program I wanted the first time, so I went to career for a year, applied again, and went in. That was my biggest crisis. Now I've experienced loss, I've experienced trauma, I've experienced a lot more. Describe your support system in your life at this time. And then medical background. What is your general state of health? What child illnesses and other serious physical illnesses have you had? Have you had any mental illness? If yes, please explain. Do you smoke? Do you drink? How much? How much? Do you use any prescription or street drugs? Which I don't like that they put prescription and street drugs in the same category, because to me there's a difference between me taking Vizan, which is a prescription drug, versus me taking cocaine. Like, so it's like, yes, I take prescription drugs for my prescription. Anyway, are you currently under medical treatment? If yes, please explain. And then there's like a checklist of different stuff of what you or your family have experienced. So like asthma, blood disorders, cardiovascular disease, and it breaks it down, heart disease, high blood pressure, stroke, stuff like that. So it goes through all that. Then family background, so it makes you list all your relations, so like immediate family. So your mother, brothers, father, that kind of family. In my actual home visit though, she did end up taking my cousins and my aunt and uncle. Where's my puppy? Puppy! Hi. Don't bark, please. And this is the point where I feel like some of it's really intrusive, because not only does it want who is what. So this is my mom. Her name is blah, blah, blah. Her age is this. It wants to know their education level, any degrees they graduated with, their occupation. Anyway. And I had to get that because we decided to add my cousins to the list and my aunt and uncle. We had to get all that too. So it's like, why does my cousin's occupation matter? Really? Describe your parents' marriage. How did they make decisions, handle stress, divide the work, share the parenting? Are your parents still married to each other? If not, please explain. My parents have been married for like 42 years. Describe the way children were disciplined/punished in your family. What was done by whom and how frequently? Describe your current relationship with your family. And then it gets into a whole bunch of NA for me, but for those watching, I know some of you are married. So, describe your partner's personality. What qualities do you appreciate most in your partner? And I just want to say that this is my international adoption one, but private adoption was very similar. Private adoption, I'm not sure how often unmarried couples can adopt, but same-sex couples can adopt privately. However, internationally, I don't know of any countries. I for some reason I feel like I've heard that maybe Colombia or something. Anyway, a country has allowed same-sex couples to adopt. However, every country that I've seen has marriage requirements. So you have to be married. You have to be married for X amount of years, kind of thing. So anyway, so when it says marriage, it's because if you're not married, there's not a lot of countries you qualify for, if any. Describe your partner's personality. What qualities do you appreciate most in your partner? If you could change anything about him or her, what would it be? What activities do you enjoy sharing with your partner? What do you feel are the strongest points in your relationship? What produces the greatest stress in your relationship and how do you resolve it? Again, how do you deal with stress? How do you deal with anger with each other? How do you deal with sadness with each other? Have you ever been separated from your partner? If yes, please explain. Have you ever been married or involved in a long-term relationship before? If yes, how long did the relationships last? And why did it end? What goals do you work towards in your relationship? And during the actual home study, like the home visit portion, they will do a visit with you, a visit with your partner, and a visit together, or a meeting together. It might be during the same visit, but they separate you and then combine you. Have you ever had this is about children now. Have you ever had a child by birth? When? Did you parent that child, those children? Yes. For how long? If the child was placed for adoption, please explain. Have you ever adopted before? If yes, please give details, like what type of adoption, age of child placement, racial background, disability, circumstances. Describe each child who lives with you, name, age, physical appearance, personality, grade in school, skills and interests, relationships with parents, siblings and peers, understanding of adoption, and readiness to include another child in the family. Please use another sheet if necessary, because the box isn't big. And I believe if the child's over, I want to say 16, it might be 14, maybe 16, they will be included in the home study as well, where they will be interviewed by the social worker. Okay, parenting. What preparation or experience do you have for parenting? Do you and your partner agree on child rearing and discipline? In what ways? What aspect of parenting will you find the hardest? How will you parent differently from the way your parents raised you? At this time, what goals and expectations do you have for your children? What future events or occurrences in your children's lives will you find most difficult for you? How will your life change with the arrival of a new child? What are your plans for childcare during the child's preschool years? Which is obviously not applicable if you're adopting an older child. Adoption plans. Why are you applying for adoption? Briefly outline the steps you have taken to attempt to have another child. So that basically is like the first part. And then you have like what your child desired paperwork is. I also filled out afterwards, there was a whole like drug use thing, what drugs were used, and mental illness, and sexual abuse, and physical abuse. Like there was a whole nother questionnaire that she physically handed to me that I filled out. So I don't have that because I don't have that. I pulled this off of my agency, their website, so I don't have what she physically gave me at the home visit. But anyway, so child desired. So what age range, racial heritage, will you accept a child with Aboriginal background? Will you accept a child with treaty status? Which gender? Will you accept twins? Will you accept siblings? If so, how many? Minimum age or maximum age? Comments, will you accept a child conceived by sexual assault, by incest? Comments, parental birth, parent history. So all this is some very much the same as what I filled out last time, which will be in part 2, or I don't know which way I did it, but it'll be the other video, which I'll post here now, about the child desired paperwork. But it basically goes through like smoking, drug use, mental illness, all that fun stuff. The child's history, so what you will be accepting of. So in there I probably put like Down syndrome and stuff that comes with it. And then that's child if you already have a child. And then I previously don't remember doing this, but it made me do a monthly budget. So, and that's pretty much all the questions. The rest is just paperwork. So my specific agency makes you do all that paperwork plus so the contact information sheet, the medical history and the history for each applicant, the child desired or child identified, the financial paperwork, a copy of your birth certificate, original or notarized copy of marriage certificate and divorce decrees if applicable, T4 slips from the most recent year, or they had me send my notice of assessment, and then criminal record check, RCMP, and then intervention checks for whatever provinces you've lived in for the past 100 years. And then the SAFE questionnaire part 1. So I think it was the SAFE part 2 that I filled out when she was here. And then the medical reference for each applicant, and then all the consent forms and signing. And then they had my references fill out paperwork. So I hope that kind of gives you a little bit of an idea. I'm sorry if I talked really fast and you didn't catch all those questions, but I'm sure you can pause. So yeah, it's basically your entire life history. At the actual home study, they go over all that paperwork, and just like they want to know basically where you have lived your entire life, like what years, where you lived, what years. Oops, sorry, I'm like messing things up on my tablet. So where you have lived, what years, your entire job history, like where you worked and when. A lot about your childhood and how your parents raised you, stuff about your parenting philosophy and what you would do in certain situations. Yeah, your entire like financial history, your entire medical history, your parents, basically everything history. It's probably the most intrusive process that you will ever go through. I don't know if it's because I do YouTube and I talk about everything anyway, so I don't find it to be like a huge issue, for me anyway, but if you have some family history that you don't really want to talk about, you're going to have to talk about it. Unfortunately, that's part of it. I understand part of it because they want to make sure that they're not putting a child at risk. But the thing is, like the ones where adoption goes wrong, it's going to go wrong regardless of how much you do. Like India, unfortunately, had a situation in the States, and now require a psych eval. The thing is, having a psychological assessment done, I don't see where that makes it any different, because a lot of the stuff she wrote in my psychological assessment is the same stuff that they asked me for my home study. So I don't know if it's just because she's a licensed psychologist and therefore can make a better judgment than my social worker obviously can. But still, like, the people that harm children are going to harm children regardless of how much paperwork. Mind you, I don't understand why someone would go through the adoption process just to harm a child. But yeah, whatever. I don't know what happens in their minds. So yeah, it's the most intrusive process you will ever go through. Just be willing to talk about everything and anything and everything. So yeah, I'm glad mine's over with. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm done. She might still email me some questions, but for the most part, mine's done. I don't mind the paperwork portion. It's the home visits itself, which honestly I feel is the most stressful, horrible part of the whole time, because you're not only explaining stuff, but you don't have time to think because they're in front of you and they're writing notes and they're inspecting your home, and they're just, as much as people say they're not there to judge you, that's their job. So The home study stuff is just the most stressful. The dossier paperwork is a pain in the butt because it's like, you need 7 million copies of your birth certificate, notarized and apostilled and everything. That part's stressful in terms of just how much paperwork you need to do, but that stuff's easy. That stuff's easy. No one's going to ask you about your parents' drug use when they were a teenager during that process. That's part of the home study. And no one's going to be like, okay, what's your parents' medication and what dosages? Like, and if you have parents that you don't communicate with, I have no clue how you get this information. My family's very open and fine with me adopting. So when I had questions like, oh, where did dad work between this year and this year? I was able to ask my mom and she could tell me. So anyway, it's just frustrating. But it's done. It's done. So sorry to those that are still going through it, because it sucks. But it's worth it. It's worth it. It really is. Like, this is my second time for this child going through this. So if I can go through it twice to get one child, you guys can go through it once to have one child. Trust me, you won't have to do it again because you're not like me and have everything blow up. I will probably maybe adopt a second child, so I will have to go through it again, but things will be different because Emmy will be home and I think when you already have a kid, especially a kid through adoption, a lot of the questions about attachment and stuff like that you can answer because you've lived it. But now it's like this hypothetical thing. And the worst part is my social worker doesn't even have kids. So, lady that doesn't have children judging my ability to parent a child when she's never parented a child. Yeah. Yep. Anyway, that's it. I'm done. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to follow me along on this journey. Questions, comments, go down below. Thanks for watching, and I shall see you guys later. Bye, guys.